Hey everybody, this has been with Live from the Path. Unfortunately, I won't be able to bring you the whole show that we recorded with John Paul Burtch. It's really a bummer. It was such a great show, but we did get some alternative audio after some technical difficulties that got you about the last 90 minutes of the program. So, I'm going to turn you over to that with the show already in progress. Please enjoy Live from the Path with special guest John Paul Burtch.
And a fervent prayer of mine is there's just so many musicians, and most of which are on that list, that are like, what I love about them is that they're just so them that there's no way you could ever even just like pretend to be them. Like you would be clearly imitating them. And there's a certain line or, where it's cool to celebrate those influences and stuff. Yeah. But my goal, I think my chief goal is to be as uniquely me as I possibly can be. Just because I feel like that's what I love about all the artists that I love so much. Like on my top of my list is like biggest influences in my life were Korn and Slipknot and Tool and Deftones and Incubus and like all these folks. They're just them. They're just so them. Think like Jonathan Davis is one of the first ones that comes to mind where like he just his singing from the day one I started listening to him was just like, no one, like you just, and there's like three guys in their band. I mean, all of them essentially, but especially the ones that have been there from the beginning. They're all that way. Yeah. And I'm like, their bass playing, like you can't play bass like that. He's the only one who does. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to like understand what I'll be like, but I want to do that. Like I want to be just me as much as I can be, so that if anybody else loves me, it's because they're like, man, he's so John Paul Burtch. Yeah, that's right.
So JPB.
Yeah.
That song, you said that you had written half of it before.
Yeah, most of it was actually written before I became a Christian.
Gotcha.
Final touches after.
Obvious, part in the song where it splits, or did you have the first half, last half, or it was just kind of a mix?
Not really. I mean, I actually most of it was like fine tuning at the very end. I don't really remember any specific. I had almost all the lyrics written, almost all the chord structure, and I think it was just some final touches. But I just can't. I don't even remember what the final touches were, to be honest. Yeah. So, yeah.
So we said we would come back to it. Tell me more about this subway encounter.
Sure. So I got to tread kind of lightly because I want to protect the privacy of the person on the other end of this. But essentially, but it's also too good of a story not to tell. I saw a young lady on the subway train, and it was just like I had just got back from Turkey, and I've had a train wreck of romantic relationships, my life long, that was just real bad, and it was, had just wasn't getting any better at this day, and I kind of I was just at a point where I don't know, maybe some kind of breaking point, but I saw this beautiful young lady on the subway, and it was like I had this very love at first sight. Like I would marry this woman. I don't know why. She's glowing. I don't know what's happening right now, but maybe at any other point in my life, I would have tried to go over and talk to her and strike up a conversation or something. And for whatever reason, this day was a little different, and I just decided to turn myself around so I couldn't see her. So I actually turned my body and just was like, I'm going to turn myself completely around so I'm not even tempted to look at her. And the very moment that I turned and looked the other way, I thought to myself, it's time for me to focus on my spiritual life. And that was the exact thought that ran through my mind the moment I turned. And at the exact same time, they talk about Chronos time, the woman that was with the young lady, she said, so when you go back home to Iowa over vacation, will you, or when you're on vacation, will you go back home to Iowa? And I had never met anybody or heard the word Iowa, I think, my whole time in New York City. Right. So I just dropped all plan, and in that moment I didn't even think about it. I immediately walked over and was just like, did I just hear you're from Iowa? I'm from Iowa. I've never met anybody from Iowa in New York City. And we started talking for 2 or 3 bus stops, and I nervously ripped off, wrote down my email on my notebook and ripped it off and gave it to her, and was like, I'm nice to meet you. We should go to a show or something sometime. And she shook my hand, told me your name, got off the train. And I was like, I'll probably never see her again. And I didn't know what had happened, but it was weird. And I was like, I went home and I didn't think of much of it. I thought I'd never hear from her probably, but I had an email waiting for me, and she's asking me about my schedule and we could get together sometime. So, long story short, we got together and hit it off like I'd never really hit it off with anybody in my life, and came really close in a short amount of time. And she shared the gospel with me in ways I had never, some key things I had never heard before. Yeah. And I was just so head over heels in love at the same time that I was all ears. And
I'll drink this in.
yeah, and I mean,
Tell me more.
so a couple of the things she had shared with me that I remember that were just so like necessary for me to hear were, she's the first person that ever said to me that the claim was Jesus is God. Mm-hmm. I'd never heard that before in such terms. Yeah. And for some reason, I just made all the difference in the world. I was like, okay, that's different. Yep. Like that's different. That makes things different. Yeah. Is that the claim? Like I had no idea,
Is that what we're really talking about?
Yeah. And then I think another one of the things that like made it especially approachable, she shared with me that the idea that faith itself was a gift. Mm-hmm. And that was even maybe more profound to me because I had struggled my whole life with what a little I knew about Christianity, where I was like, how can I be like, I can't help the fact I don't believe in this. Like it's too crazy for me to believe in this. I'm too scientific to believe in miracles and things like that. Like what, like I can't help it, so like what,
it's a reasonable argument.
Right. And so this idea that faith itself was a gift, like between all the things that were going on, and it prompted my first prayers, which my first prayers were, God, if this is true, if this Christianity thing is true, help me to be even capable of believing it.
Right. Yep.
And then, of course, the immediate follow-up is, and if it is true, help me to believe it.
Yep.
And then not long after that, I think the way God answered that prayer quick was she started sharing sermons with me from a pastor she had back in California. Mm-hmm. And he was like a doctorate in apologetics and things that like I had also never really been exposed to too heavily. Yep. And he was all over it. Like, and he had a regiment, argumentation set up week after week. And I watched maybe a dozen of his sermons, and I was just like, wow, I have now heard arguments that like somehow or another this makes more sense to me. Like this is a more reasonable it's more reasonable like to believe that these things actually happened. Like I can argue better now that these things happened than I can't. And that was my entry level at that point, my understanding of what Christianity was. I thought I was a Christian. I was like, I just believe this happened. I was like, no, so I guess I'm a Christian. And then kind of like, again, long story short, about the moment I identified as a Christian, kind of all hell broke loose in my life. Uh-huh. And lots of different things from every angle just started not being pleasant and hard, and I ended up moving back from New York City to Iowa for some family stuff, and it just kind of started like the process of like, this is much more than just merely believing in it. Yeah. This is actually a relationship that's being developed with God and following Him, and that's been the journey for the last coming up on 9 years now.
Wow. I always love listening to stories about how God does this kind of stuff, because it always blows apart the thing that I thought would never be true, right? Like, remember we had a guy come in here, I don't know, it had to been last year or something. He was talking about handing out pamphlets to people. I'm like, oh, pamphlets, these will never. And he's like, and I actually came to know the Lord by reading this pamphlet. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, and then same thing is, you're like, I was listening to an apologetics guy, right? And I'm like, no one listens to apologetics until they're like 30 years in, and they're like, okay, I want to fine tune some of this thing, And here you are, like, I don't know, I started out on the apologetics guy, and it was pretty solid.
Right. No, I think you're right. Like, that's I feel like one of the telltale signs of God now to me is that, like, don't ever underestimate what He can use.
Exactly.
Like, He can use absolutely anything. I can't quote the verse, but the one about, like, He uses the things that the world thinks are important to bring to nothing, that, things that are seemingly insignificant to the world to bring to nothing the things that the world thinks is significant. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's what he's all about.
That's totally the truth. It's kind of the thing that refreshes. I find it refreshes my relationship with him, like because I can never box him, and I'll be like, and I'll say it out loud. I'll be like, I would never,
but I try all
put
the
God
time.
in the box, you know. And then he'll do something. I'm like, totally hedge in the box on that one. All right, I see what you're doing. Okay, I'm out.
It's kind of one of our never-ending like struggles. Is just like we're always just the tendency. Like, can I make it more neat and tidy and be in control? Like, no, okay, that's the whole opposite of it. Like, this is not what that is.
It's so funny, right? Because like Christianity catches such a bad rap, but it's like having like some wild friend, you know?
No, the wildest,
does like ridiculous things.
Like, oh God, get it
you know, it's like that.
God, could you tone it down a little bit?
Let's go on a 3-day trip to Kentucky, and you're like, what? We got to call some people. This is what the Holy Spirit's like. We're like, let's do this crazy thing. By the way, I need you to go to Homemakers in about 20 minutes. I got a guy there you need to talk to. I guess.
Yeah, it reminds me of a time I had a Holy Spirit moment at one point that was so funny. Like I had started working at a restaurant, and I had on my mind that I wanted to get a tortilla press for fresh pressing tortillas.
Yeah, right.
And I had a plan to reach out to the folks from Fernando's to see if they would give me a recommendation.
Yeah.
So like I'm sitting there one night and I just like suddenly it was like I had a strong thought. I need to go get pants right now. I need to go get pants right now. And it was one of those like, it was like, what is going, like, this is me, but it's a little intense for like, seems like I'm telling myself to go get pants right now. Why would I right now? Like 15 minutes before the stores close? This is dumb. Like, right. So I tried to ignore it, and then like it wouldn't go away. So I was like, all right, I'll go to Target. It's closer. I went to Target. Closed, or they didn't have the pants that I wanted. I forget what it was. It was no win. I was avoiding going to the mall, and so I realized I have to go to the mall. I went to the mall and like I bought my pants, and it was a good deal actually. So I was like thinking, God hooked me up with some good pants. This is great.
Thanks, Jesus.
That was what this must have been all about.
Got some new chinos.
And I remember praying on the way out. I was like, God, if there was any other reason why I was supposed to be here, like this seems pants. Like I don't know, just let your will be done.
Yeah.
And I ran right into the dudes from Fernando's in the food court, and I was like, hey, I was going to reach out to you guys, and they and long story short, we flipped around and sold me their used tortilla press they weren't using anymore that week.
Oh my gosh!
I was like, wow, this is nuts.
Chapter 1 of John's biography, when the Lord got me a tortilla press,
and some nice pants, at a good deal.
You know what I love about what you guys were just talking about is that like, because God will use anything, he can and actively does, it should curtail human arrogance that says, I have the thing figured out, either as a church, as a person, that says, oh, God doesn't work that way, or God will not work through this thing, or it is in my control and my own ability to persuade someone, to convince them to give up something, to convince them to give their life to Jesus. And it's the miraculous thing is that God allows you to play a part in it. Yeah. But like, there's just like, we should look around in awe and humility and go, I didn't need to be here, and God let me be.
I mean, like, I think God is all over my personality with my story, and that, like, even though I had this really, I feel like, everyone's story is extraordinary, but my story seems to be a little bit more spicy, I guess, like some. But
are you saying spicy because it was a tortilla press?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pun intended. But I don't know. Just it seems like kind of over the top, and that, like, again, it's not to dismiss. Everyone's story is valid and good and special and unique, no matter how you came to Christ.
Right.
But I think, like, even though I had this extraordinary encounter, like super extraordinary, like so many things, like was just like God was barreling into my life and going, here I am, like, meet me. I love it. Like, I am here. And like, he just like revealed himself to me in a way that was so extraordinary.
Yep.
Yet, like, I'm finding myself thinking that, like, I'm going to be the one to, like, share something in such a way that they're going to believe now because of what I said. And I'm like, I often remember, I'm like, what did it take for me? Like, I had to have real extraordinary circumstances all line up in this, like, crazy serendipity for me to get, like, my attention.
Yep.
So, like, but at the same time, like you said, I am a part of it.
Exactly.
I don't know what God's going to use. Like,
Yeah.
He can use my little sharing whatever with anybody at any time.
I think that's the thing.
don't know.
To you, it was this extraordinary thing. For her, she was just on the subway.
Well, so and then
know?
long story short, like I'll say long story short a lot, but the stories are super long. What I didn't know, I learned months later, was that because we were praying together at one point, and she said, it was a miracle meeting you, and I was like, what did you mean by that?
Right.
And she said, I was praying in the streets before I met you that I would meet someone special. And like 5 minutes later, she meets this woman who, it starts raining a little bit, and she meets this woman, and she's thinking this is the answer to her prayer. She meets this kind of strange lady, and they make their way down to the subway train together, and they're trying to make their way back home, wherever that is. They live in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
And so she's having this conversation with this lady she just met. And it's her who like causes, like, who says the thing, like, when you go home on vacation, when you go to Iowa,
Yep.
without her saying it, I don't go over there and talk to her. I'm still just looking the other way, minding my business, getting serious about my spiritual life.
Wow.
So like, yeah, it was just like she was praying for something that came to pass in a way she wasn't seeing happen.
Yep.
And,
You want one? I'll send two.
yeah, right.
You get two special people today.
I think we lost touch with Jan, though. That was her name. I remember.
Oh, interesting.
Never heard from her again.
The other thing that I think that maybe is an encouragement toward is what does it look like to pray with the expectation that God will do something? And it's not that you're forcing God's hand. Often what it does is it peels back a layer that you would miss. Like, it's basically saying, I'm open to seeing what's going on around me.
Yeah, I'm available.
Yeah, exactly right. And like, how often? Actually, I was just talking to somebody else earlier this week, who was he had some experiences where he said, I prayed expectantly,
Right.
expecting that God is and has been and will continue to work around me and to let me see it so that I may walk and be a part of it. And like, I just think that even sometimes when we look at faithfulness, we think of it as subjection to God's view of the world. Now, I would use a different word. I would say the grace of being able to walk in what God said was good. That's a gift. I totally agree with that. But there's actually even another element on top of that, which is not just can I adhere or try to allow the process to have me walk in God's good world under his good intent, but also to participate in and see and be able to enjoy and watch God do things around me. And sometimes in our attempt or our thought of being obedient, we almost kind of cut that off. Like it's our level of control of which our obedience does, as opposed to opening up and saying, God, let me walk faithful in the things you have in front of me, and let me watch you work and keep my eyes open so that I don't miss it. And so like, I love the thought of being intentional about praying expectantly.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Well, it makes me think of, like, I really love the way you guys wrap up your show. Like, be faithful in the means, God will handle the ends.
Yes, right.
It's been on my mind ever since checked out your podcast and heard that line. It's just stuck with me because like I something I'm always coming back to, I think, is like I get frustrated with God because I'm like, you show up in all these little things that don't seem significant to me, like they're significant-ish, but like they're real little. Like, I'm trying to trap a bug, and you help me trap the bug that I'm trying to catch. Like why did you'll do it in such a way where I'm like, you clearly helped me out there. Like, but then like
I got him, Jesus.
But then I'm like,
That's great.
and I almost immediately get a little frustrated where I'm like, but like, I'm praying some big stuff over here. Where are you on that? And how, like, this has been years of what is going on. I get real frustrated, like, for a moment, but I feel like what God has been showing me, like, little by little, and I'm getting more and more confident in, is that, like, he shows up in all these little things to help me trust him in the big things.
Yes, right.
Where there isn't an answer for years or for a long time.
Yep.
And that has, like, ever since I think I started thinking of it that way, like, I am praying more expectantly in the big things that I had kind of given up on, where I was like, man, this is what is going on here. But the big stuff, like, I have a little bit, just enough where I noticeably am like, you are here right now and you hear this prayer and you're doing stuff.
Yep.
It might be years, but
Yep.
you are active in this.
You know
I
what's
trust
interesting is like I think along those same lines is that like obviously God knows what he's doing, and so his timetables are different than my expectations are.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I would do if I were
Yeah.
God. Well, okay, I think we should just stop right
Yeah,
there.
necessarily. Like he's God.
Right. And so what's interesting is that this week there have been like folks that my family and I have been praying for, I mean, like no joke, for years.
Yeah.
And like there was been a couple of sets of unique circumstances of which a family is having connection points with the people and message of Jesus in a way that they haven't for a decade. And what felt like I would never say this, but like you could look at it and go like languishing, like where is God? Actually, it's one of my favorite things. I read Habakkuk this week. I just opened the thing up and I said, I'm taking something in. And it was
For everybody else, that's Habakkuk.
It's Habakkuk. And anyway, Habakkuk is great because like the opening of that is
You gotta stop it. You know what I'm saying?
It's
no one
Habakkuk.
says it that way. It doesn't matter.
Arabica.
Yeah, we're not in third
It's
century
Abraham.
Judaism. You just say it like we say it.
okay.
Arabica.
Habakkuk.
Yeah.
What were you reading in Habakkuk?
Anyway, so in Habakkuk,
I don't even know the right way now.
So
It ain't the way Ben's doing
This
it.
is
I'll
the
tell you that.
book of Arabic. Arabica? Is that a book?
his accusations were against God. Like basically, we're going like, where have you been? Like what? Like, hi, I've waited and you're not responding. Why do you let your people languish? Why do you let these people step on your name and insult your people and all this stuff? So like everything that a person who doesn't love and follow Jesus has accused God of, God's prophets have started with, because they're having this. They're as humans who believe this thing is true are having the same experience and go, fine, if I buy you are who you say you are, what the heck is
Right.
going on right here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, I think sometimes, even in a right relationship with God, you can go, I felt like this was something where, like, I'm praying with good purpose, and this is for your kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it happening?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and just as I think about stuff going on around me this week, it's God's going, yeah, I mean, I heard your prayer, man, and it's steeping the way that it's supposed to, and it's coming together the way that you asked for.
Yeah.
Part of this is you trusting me, and then part of this is you getting to delight in paying off in long promises, which that's how I promise.
I saw, I never thought I'd be quoting Bob Goff, but no offense to Bob Goff, because I've read a couple of his books and gotten some good stuff from it.
Yeah.
But Bob, he posted something on Instagram recently that I think is along these lines and really good, where he's like, I'm always trying to put in the microwave stuff that God's trying to slow cook.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Oh, dang, that's some truth.
That Bob Goff, I tell you, he'll get the best of you.
He will.
Just when you think that you've moved on to like Jesus complex flavors and Brussels sprouts
You're used
and
to meat.
quinoa, and then here comes Bob Goff with his spray can of cheese, and you're like, give me some.
Velveeta.
That's so great, Bob.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, cheese whiz, and chicken and a biscuit.
My mom does something that I used to think is super weird, but as my walk, I said my walk. Sorry, Christianology. As my relationship with Christ continues, I find it less and less weird as time goes on. She has altars, like she does stones and reminder prayers and stuff like that for like big stuff that's happened or little stuff for like this child survived or these people are married or stuff like that. And I used to think it was so weird. Like the first time I saw it, I was like,
oh no, it's weird.
Okay, all right, fine. Like you got a stone, you're writing on a marker, whatever. But like when it comes to remembering what God's done in their story, it is such a beautiful thing to see this literal pile of rocks. That's like this person's alive. And these people are married, and this person has made it through this trial, and all these different things. And I used to think it was so weird. Nowadays, I almost cry when I see that pile of rocks, because I'm like, what a beautiful thing to like remind ourselves as we're praying and as we're being intentional and knowing that we can trust God and challenging Him in certain ways to where He's like, you don't scare me and your challenges aren't crazy. Bring it. Really. Like, show me what you think you've got. I'll show you who I am. And it's time and time again that I'm brought back to those stones. And I'm like, God has never failed.
Right.
He's never failed once. And her story is so beautiful. And like, it extends generations now of this beauty that God has from her family. And it, like, the fact that I'm her son is another one of those. And it's such a beautiful thing. And it's a reminder to me to be like, sometimes I do get that. God, I trust you in little things, but I don't know if I can hand over the big stuff. I don't know if I can hand over things that mean something to me.
Yeah.
And then I remember those stones, and I'm like, no, that's exactly what I need to hand to him.
Yep.
There's nothing he's failed on. You can trust him in the little, you can trust him in the gigantic things. And it may not be the quick yes or no, and it may not be the quick answer that you get, but some of these stories span 20 years.
Yep.
That it's like, you started praying for this 20 years ago, and you thought I failed you, or you thought you couldn't trust me, but I never once let you go, and here I am now. Remember the stones. I've never once failed, and I will always be there for you.
Yep. Well, and think biblically, like, of all the places where God had tried to intentionally put things into place so that his people did not forget, and they'd blow right by them. But all of the, think of it just even as the Israelites are, like, they're memorizing scripture. They're doing, put it on your doorstep, put it on your forehead. Like, these aren't like goofball things. These are, don't forget that I am your God, you are my people, I am with you, and I tasked you. I called your father Abraham with a specific job. You are a chosen people who are meant to mediate between me and the rest of the world, that they may come to know me. And, like, raise an Ebenezer, build an altar. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I get this feels odd coming because I'm in a house church, but, like, there's something something you guys were talking about last week on the show about walking into a town and seeing the highest thing above the town is a cross on a big old church building. And because it takes all kinds, and because I like to be reminded that the people of Jesus are holding fort somewhere in this town, and there's something comforting about that. And I've often thought back to, like, it means something different now, maybe in a landscape of different buildings and things. But, like, let's say it was 1830, and you're pulling up on a town, and, like, the way that the reason you know that there's a town up ahead is the first thing that you take in is some people of Jesus had put a really big spire in there that you may know that people of Jesus are here, and that you would know if there's nowhere else to go, I can go knock on that door. And I don't know if the church still has that vibe anymore. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But, like,
yes and no.
Kind of, right? And I think the people of Jesus can be that, but you can't necessarily see it from 23 miles out.
Right.
But anyway, it's just like God even put in the rhythms of his people and the rhythms of the church to remember things. That's communion. Right? These are the things where, like, sometimes, like, well, we'll look at these Pharisaical rituals. No, man. Look at the gift that God has given you to not forget these types of things.
Yeah.
So
take it as a hint.
That's right.
You're going to forget.
That's right. Exactly. And don't shackle yourself with it. Play with it like sprinkles. And so it's just I think it's a good reminder. In fact, I've thought of that. I think someone had asked me one time, they're like, tell me the things that God has done with your life. And, like, I could tell a broad story, but I had a moment of panic because I thought it's probably 1,000 things.
Right.
Of which felt super impactful at the moment. And then what happened? I got distracted by something. I read a book. I had a baby. I shot hoops on a basketball hoop that's 2 feet lower than standard because it makes me feel awesome. Like, whatever these things are that start to take over and replace things that I intended to remember and that felt super impactful. Except for you can look in the corner and see we have popsicle sticks on ours. We've got some rocks but, like, the rocks are the big things. Popsicle sticks are the bugs. Are the bugs in the tortilla press. The rock is the lady on the subway, and, like, we have something like that on a little stand in the kitchen. Yeah. But hey, you've been listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us so far. Hey, if you're hanging out on the live stream, I have gotten a smattering of reports of the live stream not behaving, and so just know, like, we're recording the show. We'll replace it. We'll get the local recording back up for your enjoyment, pleasure, if you're struggling with the live stream.
That sounds like something to throw onto the Life from the Path complaint line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You should say that. Let's say you say, I came to listen. I don't care what this blowhard business that you guys are normal about. Give me more JPB.
Yeah.
And I came, and I've never listened to your show before, and now it's rife with technical difficulties. And if this is what I'm to expect, I'm going back home. So if you want to say that out loud because you feel like it emboldens you in the world, you give a call to the Live from the Path Bob Eisenhower complaint line. That's 515-517. 517.
0085.
What's happening?
0085.
Why is this happening to me? 515-517-0085. That's call or text. Okay? if you don't want to bother to dial it in. Now, if you really want to get your ire across, here's the deal. I was at a coffee shop today, and I was on the phone doing work stuff, and this woman interrupted the phone call I was on, and what was it that Boo? She said something like, "Do you know how loud you're being?
Do you understand how loud you're being?"
Yeah.
She was sitting a foot and a half behind him at a table when there were like 13 other tables, sitting right behind him and going, "Your voice is projecting right into the window and coming right back at me. Do you realize how loud you're being?" I almost died laughing at that. I had to walk away for a moment because that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I really hope she has friends here by the time that I get on a call, because I am much louder than Ben.
Which made me think I need a card that's got the complaint line on it. They say, "Madam,
I'm making them. That would have been
here's
amazing.
what you do."
And I'm so mad I didn't
Just
have those
life
today.
is one big podcast.
That's right.
I do have a complaint line.
Yes, here you go.
Hey,
I've
man,
set this up.
If we're
Personal
talking about the
complaint.
kind of person you are, I was also talked to by the baristas at that coffee shop that you looked like an insane person walking around for an hour on a phone call with earbuds in that no one had any idea you had in.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
so
the
you
best.
looked like you were talking to yourself in a full conversation with iterations for a full hour.
Yeah.
And she said, "Do you know him? Are you good with him? Because he seems crazy." I thought it was awesome.
Hey, we picked up a listener at the coffee shop.
We did. I don't know her name, but she followed us on Instagram.
Hey.
I think it had something to do. I don't remember your name. Thanks for following us on
Yeah.
Instagram
We're
today.
up to like 6.
Yeah. Hey, if
She said she was going to listen. Ben and I tried to tell her not to.
yeah.
So
I don't know, but look, John's on the show tonight. He's
Yeah.
redeeming the
This will
whole
be a
thing.
big time.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's going to be like, I saw John. I loved it.
Hey, listen. We're not even close to half.
Yeah. Okay.
Where we
Sorry.
want to be. So what do you want to do?
Okay, John needs to play one more tune before we talk about something else, and then he'll lead the show out in case we need to rescue it at the end.
Okay.
All
Guys.
right.
Okay.
fair.
That's
So-
a lot of pressure.
Okay, John, what's next on the docket?
Great. It's funny, like after our conversation or before the show, now I'm kind of like, do I use the expression explicitly Christian?
Yeah, purveyor of explicit
Yeah.
Christian music.
So don't think by what I'm
John
about
Palmer.
to say that the song is explicit, but it is explicitly Christian, and that it's like I have a spectrum of songs.
So the
and-
children can stay in the room?
Yeah.
Yes, they can. This is PG, and it's just to say that it's clear from the content of this song that it is Christian.
Okay.
And that's not always the case with my songs. They kind of exist on a spectrum. I'd say, a small fraction of them are very clearly Christian.
Yep.
Actually, I'd say the bulk of them are clearly Christian. A small fraction are like kind of Sunday morning worship songs, and then another smaller fraction on the other end are songs that they sound like they could be a secular song, but are in alignment with Christianity or Christian friendly.
Yep.
So there's nothing anti-Christian in it,
Right.
Not at all. And so this is my song that is, out of all of my tunes, it's a clearly a Christian song, but it's the one that I think is the most crowd friendly, I guess is the
Okay.
best way. Like it could appeal to a wide audience.
Okay.
It's called Collide, and one of the things I'm doing with my songs, if I stick to my guns, is I'm recording them in the order that I wrote them. So I'd like to do like a chronological release, single by single.
Yep.
And this one, I don't know where it's at in that mix, but it'll be a long time before I record it if I stick to my guns. But yeah, it's a song about Jesus, about the cross and what really like happens there, and that it's the place where I have to go and we all have to go to be able to give and receive forgiveness from God, for others, from others. It's kind of like the peacemaking place where
Right.
we go to find peace, because as soon as I start forgetting how much I've been forgiven, it's hard for me to forgive, and I think that's likewise for people who need to forgive me.
Yeah, totally.
So that's where this song comes from. It's called Collide.
All right. You're listening to John Paul Burtch on Live from the Path.
Meet me where the thorns of fear and pride are no longer sides. Meet me where the tears of joy and praise flow from feeling heaven's grace. Meet me where forgiveness costs so much, but it's worth our loved one's touch. Meet me where we're moved into new life, where truth and love collide. Meet me where the weight of guilt and shame hung from nails below his name. Meet me where the day turned dark as night, where our God won every fight. Meet me where forgiveness costs too much, but it's worth our loved one's touch. Meet me where we're moved into new life, where truth and love, where truth and love collide, 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 where Jesus wore our thorns, where Jesus hangs on our cross, where we are no longer lost, where we are no longer lost, where truth and love, where truth and love collide, 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 collide. Oh, thank you all so much.
Oh man, that was John Paul Burtch here on Live from the Path with the song "Collide." Perhaps to be recorded years from now based on the
never know.
chronological execution.
I mean, like if I start recording them faster, then maybe it's next year.
you got to start burning through them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I find myself almost
Pray for
having a
me.
physical reaction to these songs, and like I mean from the perspective of like when it's quiet at the beginning, I feel like pulled in to listen to it, and then you just like get louder in great ways, and I have to step back for a second to take it in, and I literally found myself going back and forth through that that song of like, I'm listening quietly and sitting here in reflection, and then, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, and I have to step back. That was awesome. I loved that.
It's the sweater. He's got that sweater he has on pulls you in.
I wasn't going to say it that way, but
like,
yeah.
It is. There's a lot of magic in the sweater.
That's right. He's going to tell a nice, like a story, and then you're kind of paying real close attention, and then wham.
Yeah, it gets you. It's just like it's like the Mr. Rogers vibes. You just like bring you in, and then the Corey Taylor influence sends you home.
My wife's going to ask me to get a sweater now. Dang it.
Oh, Mike, did you
Goodwill,
based upon that
Goodwill,
story?
man.
Did you think your wife would tell you to get a sweater?
I already own one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
What?
I want you to get the same sweater, and we can do a who wore it better.
Mine's got a wide collar. It's the same kind of operation, gray.
Yeah.
But but it runs a
Oh
wide
yeah,
collar.
those are
But
nice.
The problem is this, fellas. None of us are going to wear it well enough, though.
No, here's what I want to happen, Mike. I want you to a selfie with this sweater on,
Got it.
and John, I want you to selfie with your sweater on, and
All right.
we're gonna do who wore it better on the Instagram.
Done.
I can do that, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think I have a gray one, too, that I can wear also. Can I get in on this?
Yeah.
Do you have to wear an undershirt?
Yes, Mike. This is why we don't let him on the
if you-
TikTok, okay?
If you want to make it fair,
I'm just
it
asking.
won't be a fair
And
contest.
we're answering. The answer is yes.
I'm
You
just
have
looking
to
for
wear
the
an
baseline.
undershirt.
That's all I want to know.
That's a good point.
Sweet Moses. No, it's not a good point.
No,
yes, wear it.
You're going to tilt the scales if you do it. Then it becomes about how much.
Don't say anything.
How much-
Don't say anything. I don't need hamburger meat or nothing. Just, I know, yes.
I was going to say chest wig, but fine.
Yeah, chest wig.
Yeah. Medusa Manley.
Medusa man. Oh man. You asked why he doesn't get a TikTok. This is why. It's because this is what he'll do for 30 seconds.
That's all of them talking
Hey,
at
as
once.
soon as someone said chest wig, I saw Dan get closer to the microphone.
Dan's like, I've got one of those.
This is my time to shine. Okay, so I think we're gonna move. Let's skip the 6 things.
Good.
Boo. So let's round robin on like podcast or like preachers or something who you feel like what's the premise, who have had an impact on you or that you reach back for, or
Yeah, not just like we don't just want like podcasts that you think are good, but like they did something.
Oh, yeah.
For your faith, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like you could think of it like a specific time where they did something,
Yeah.
or or like there's their particular teaching or whatever. Like, if you had one chance to try to give the gospel to somebody, you're like, hey Ted, you got to listen to this.
oh,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna tell you, that never works though.
No, it doesn't ever.
Like, anytime the Lord has used a podcast to really like to do something powerful in their life, as soon as you recommend it to someone else, they listen to it and go,
It's real good.
I don't think that did anything for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Did we
it
just
happens.
talk about how not putting the Lord in the box and
So,
not doing
but here's the thing: we're saying if you erroneously try to recommend it to somebody, we're not saying the Holy Spirit's going to be all right with it. We're just going to say,
So just be prepared for the like,
Yes.
and that didn't.
Yeah.
It was all right. And you're like,
most of
that
the time-
changed my life.
yeah,
Yeah, that wrecked me. Yeah, I listened to 5 minutes of it, and I wasn't really.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've been in tears at the end of that. But I didn't
this
really like the
happens to
guy's
my wife
voice.
all the
So
time. I'm like, woman, you got to check this out. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm weeping in the car by myself.
Here's the problem is the same with my wife. I can't like tell her the podcast that I've listened to and say they were super impactful, but I can't also just talk about them because then she'll think that I'm smart and that I was the one who came up with the thing that I learned from the podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've ran into that a couple times where I've had to check and be like, oh no, that wasn't me that came up with that. By the way, I got that from a podcast.
Now, the
She'll be
podcast
like,
I
"Oh,
recommended that you were like, So
Okay.
maybe you should
Yeah.
listen to my.
Yeah, maybe if you hear it in my voice for some reason, you'll think it's better. I don't know
Okay,
why.
so changed your world may or may not impact anybody past the dull roar type of podcast or sermons or something. Mm-hmm. Okay, who's got one ready to go?
I got 3.
Okay, you start with one, and we'll make our way around.
I got
Mike,
one too.
Say, Mike, do you got something in mind? Okay, okay, we'll get. Sorry, Mike, if you got something, we're coming your way. Okay, live from the path, Mike. Go ahead.
I've now you got to hear some.
It's great so far.
Well, I've tried. You can't listen. To the man.
I don't know.
You can't listen to the man, right? But like Mark Driscoll did a men in marriage sermon where he just straight up like yelled at dudes, and
knew you were
like
gonna take that.
I totally needed it. You cannot listen to almost any of the rest of his teaching.
Nope.
You can't follow him as a man of integrity. But I'm telling you, this particular sermon, like it showed up right when I needed it. I needed I needed someone to hold me to account and say that God expected more out of me, and this sermon did it. And I probably shared that with every dude with testicles I could find.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to listen to this. Hey, man, you got to listen to this. Hey, let me send you over this thing.
I think I might have been one of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that if I had to go right off the bat and name one that like it really felt like it beat me up, it was that one.
Here's I think part of the impact of that particular sermon, but even things of that ilk, is it took being a man seriously.
Yeah.
Like it said, you have something. God is trying to do something through you, and you're sitting on your brains, completely not doing it. And it's what it felt like. It's such a weird thing, but I think we've seen this even as you think about, and Mike, you can speak to this better than I can, but you think about from like youth groups and stuff, when you start engaging in relationships with kids who have had kind of dicey home lives, especially in absent dads or just straight up junk ball dads. But like there's something about holding, like portraying to somebody that there is a standard for you, where it feels like, one, it's a critique at you, but it also implies that there's a value within you that you are simply blocking.
That's
that
right.
there's a belief that you are better than what you are expressing out to the world, and someone believes enough in you that it can express itself to call you up to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like I like that sermon takes a lot of heat. As a matter of fact, when they did that Fall of Mars Hill thing, like that sermon got beat up pretty heavy. And like again, I'm with you. There's questionable things certainly about Mark Driscoll, but like there was something about someone who goes, fellas, God's got more than what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And it pulls you down, but at the same time builds you up
Yeah.
to something.
There's something I go to Lutheran Church of Hope,
Yep.
and I was at the West Des Moines campus for several years, and now I'm at Hope Elam. But the senior pastor at West Des Moines, Mike Householder, he often says, "You are made for more," and he says it in just such a right tone.
Yeah.
It's like and, like yelling it essentially, like more than I am. But the way when he says that, oftentimes the way he said, it's gotten into my own vocabulary,
Yep.
where it's like that's the best. Like it's not correction. It's like calling you up to
Yeah.
what you're made for and what you have in you to do.
Yeah.
And it's just like the best kind of motivator for one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
Hits the spot.
Oh man, that was the first one I ever heard. I was totally going to say that too, so thanks for stealing it. But that was the first one I got that was real, like end of Proverbs, gird your loins stuff. That was like, hey man, do you have any idea where I hold the snow?
Yeah.
Like,
End of Job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or yeah, end of Job. Sorry. Do you have any idea like who's the one who's in like who tells the goat where to go? Like, you don't know anything. Here's who I am. And I was like, oh, cats, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And at the in the last 5 minutes of that, when he gets that real quick like deep breath and then screams to where he loses his voice.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe 18, maybe 19 when I heard that, and it scared the crap out of me. And I was like, I've never had a man speak to me like this, and it's on a computer. And this is, I don't want to be
I'm
in a
glad
room
this
with,
wasn't in
with
person.
Pastor Driscoll right now. Like, I do
Digital
not want to be
man.
there.
That's right.
He's going to look me in the face and be like, you little boy. And I'll be like, yeah, it's me. And I'm 6'3". Like, it was scary for me.
He's like 5'2".
That's what I was saying. Like,
I've been kidding. He's 5'2". I met the man. He's
I've been
like
a
nothing.
bouncer for years, and I feel like I've been in the intimidation place, but like I feel like he'd look up at me, and I'd be like, I'm really sorry, Mr. Driscoll. Like, I apologize for what I said there and how I was treating everybody around me. So yeah, no, I can totally attest to that. Yeah. So
All right, Nathaniel, what do you got?
Paul Washer.
I knew you were going to kick in at Paul Washer.
Yeah, Paul Washer.
Yeah.
Shocking youth message. Dig it.
Is it the same ilk, like same kind of thing? Or what got you, what pulled you in about it?
I don't even know. I was sitting on my couch in my dorm room, and I don't know how it even came up, but it came across the YouTube, and I sat there and I watched it, and it convicted me into following Jesus. And yeah, it was just awesome. It was one of the biggest life-changing things that I have ever seen or taken in, is this shocking youth message.
Okay.
Wow.
And
This
it
was
wasn't even,
like you converted as a result
Well,
of this one single, or
no,
maybe you
I
were
wouldn't say
other
necessarily. It just like I kind of came up in the church, and then this.
I got you.
But didn't really understand all the way. Like it just never came together in my mind, I guess. And then I watched this message by Paul Washer, and then directly after it, I listened to a message by Dan. And those two coupled together, I was like, I think I believe in Jesus.
It's the thought that, like, for a while you're just putting on the uniform, and then there's a switch to sometimes where you're like, I am the uniform. Right. Like, where like you become the thing that you were trying to walk in.
And that was kind of like the climax of the message. Is he gives an example where he's like, if I came here and I said, hey, I was late. I walked in late, and I said, "Sorry, I was late. I was hit by a log truck." Mm-hmm. And you say, "Obviously, you're not hit by a log truck. You're just fine." It's like, well, that's how you walking around saying I'm a Christian and not having anything different about your life.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's like that microwave slow cooker.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But times 10.
And then, so like, I came away from that sermon, I was like, man, so what, like, is it all about, doing things and working and being, and then I listened to this message by Dan, and he gives an example of, I don't know why, I click really well with the pithy sermon examples.
Yep.
And he says, I love my wife Cheryl, and I sometimes throw my socks on the ground, and she hates that. And so now I throw them in the laundry hamper. Why? Because I love her. I'm like, oh, wow, that's why.
That's awesome.
And my mind was just blown wide open. I was like, and I prayed right then, do I believe in Jesus? Yeah, I do. So I should go do it.
Oh, my goodness. That's great.
That's awesome.
Okay, this is great. Dan, you know that hamper thing was going to play like that?
Yeah, I had it planned.
Yeah, okay. I figured so. I figured so.
I was told. I said, this is going to be a good one. I'll put it in my tweetable tweets.
I'm going to grab Nathaniel with this one.
Dan goes, this is going to bowl over the teens.
Did you have one apart from the Driscoll thing, Bubba?
Yeah. So when it comes to podcasts that's been impactful for me, Tim Mackey in the Exploring My Strange Bible, his podcast. Dude, some of the stuff that he goes into, and he completely completely checks what I think I understand, like what I think I get about this whole thing. And I'm just like, yeah, I've understood that. I've read my Bible multiple times. Like I've gone through it all. And he's like, yeah, but did you slow down ever and like actually read it? And I go, I think so, Tim. And then he shows up and he's like, no, you did not. Let me tell you why you never read it. And I'm going to tell you how I read all of it and then studied it in 4 languages. Mm-hmm. And I did an acute infographic. So here you go. Here's to wreck everything you ever knew. And so that is an impactful podcast. I highly recommend it to anybody. But when it comes to like someone who's taught me something that just completely wrecked me, was a guy that used to be on the show, Dave Herrick.
Yep.
I went through a class of his, and the sad part is I can't recall one specific class that changed it, but it was that guy.
Yeah.
I did not understand what it looked to, like what we call to smell like Jesus. Like just flat out did not know what it looked like. And I had such a fake and cultivated relationship that I put out that I wanted people to see. And I really manicured it to look as good as possible. And then he shows up and I meet him and I get to know him and I go, crap, I look like a pansy in every situation. I'm fake. I'm not showing up with the real Jesus, and I don't know him, and I don't call him Father, and I literally have never met him the way that Dave Herrick had. And it was interesting situation. It was the same thing I talked about a couple weeks ago, where he gave me all the money in his wallet to buy a car, and money was a big thing, and always has been for me, and I don't really know why, but like I suck at trusting God with money. I just flat out do, and I'm getting better at it, thankfully, but like I did not understand it, because I had said, I'm going to buy this car in a couple of days, but I couldn't buy it that day because I couldn't get to the bank. And the dude pulls out, like, I think it was $800 out of his wallet, and he just hands it to me. And he goes, buy the car today. And I go, no, you're out of your mind. And he goes, I don't care. Take it and pay me back next week. And this was at a time where I had no reason to be trusted by anybody. I lied to everyone around me. I really did manicure at all. And he just was like, whatever, you're taking it. I feel Holy Spirit moving in this. And I went and bought the car, and I came back to him a week later, and I was pumped, because the whole week I was like, I don't know if he'd ever call me out on it if I didn't give the money back.
Mm-hmm.
And I could steal $800 from this man. And it wasn't meant to be nefarious. It was just like, I kind of suck as a person, and I don't think anybody's going to expect anything out of this. And I'm like 19, and it makes sense. Everybody hates me. But I come back a week later, and I go, hey, man, and I'm like jazzed up that I was being honest. And it was that part of my life when I was like, yes, I didn't do the really crappy move. Like, I actually showed back up with the money. And I'm like, I'm an all right guy. Like, this is okay. I may know Jesus. And I go to hand him the money, and he goes, I don't need it back. And I go, wow, okay.
This is a trick.
Nope, this isn't cool. I need to give you this money back. And he goes, no, I want you to give it to a charity. And I'm like, I hate you so much right now. And he was like, no, I'm going to give you, I'll tell you a good charity to give it to. And I'm like, I did the thing. I showed up with the money. Don't test me further than this, dude. Like, it's astonishing that I showed back up with this and didn't lie about a story where I got mugged or something or couldn't come up with the money or whatever. Like, just take it. And he saw right through it, Holy Spirit style. He was like, no, I need you to give this to this charity. And he wrote down the name of the charity and gave me the name of the website. And I went back and I pulled up this website and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do this. I don't think I'm going to give this money away. I think I'm going to keep this and tell him I did it. Oh. And I'm like, I can't be that guy. I can't be that guy and know him. Like, because one, it's the shame of going back to him and going, yeah, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
We both love Jesus, right? But it was also from the perspective of like, I can't see that in my life and see somebody that smells like Jesus and pretend like I can call him my father and do that kind of move.
Yeah. It's totally it's kind of like the sock on the floor, but like it's once you get to know Jesus, like you start to feel uncomfortable about when Jesus is in the house and the thing that you also brought in. You're like, I can't shoot.
I was like, I can't do that. I can't be that guy.
Yep.
And so I gave all the money to the charity, and I came back to him, and I think it was almost like he didn't even remember that he did it.
Yeah.
And that was the craziest part to me. Because, like, something that was so impactful and that just wrecked my understanding of myself and my relationship with Christ was just a Tuesday for him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is life-shattering things. And he's like, no, what? What? I gave you money? And I'm like, I hate you so much right now.
With that.
But at the same point in time, thank you for showing me Jesus. Yeah. Like, thank you for showing me. It was like, and that was one of the biggest moments for me. Was that moment of seeing somebody that really smelled like Jesus and being real about it. And that dude just constantly wrecked me. And I almost fought him at a gas station one time, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah,
that's a great story.
I almost punched him in the face over a hot dog. I'm be real honest about that, but. That dude just smelled like Jesus.
In fact, he tried to buy you a hot dog, and you were like, "Dude!"
No, he made me throw a hot dog away, and I almost hit him.
Oh, yeah.
Long story.
Yeah. Actually, if there's an episode, if you look at the backlog, there's an episode called "Gone Gone Buva," and that was when Troy, right when he moved and left to go to Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
And he did tell that story there. So if you want to hook up with that story, just search for "Gone Gone Buva," and that'll be back there.
Yeah. So thanks, Dave Herrick.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
Okay, right on. All right.
So I have a podcast.
Okay.
Well, it's not necessarily a podcast, but it is now. So it's Tim Keller's Redeemer Presbyterian Church. At first, it was just their app.
Yep.
And the summer that I came, like this first summer I had as a believer, I listened to probably every single day a sermon from him, and it was just like I just could not get enough. Like it was just so powerful to me. His breaking things down the way he did, his just the style that he gave it in, the expertise that he brought, like I mean all the things, his voice, which is just like, if I feel like he would be a contender for voice of God in any kind of script, but he just those in his books, all that. But it's like it wasn't necessarily a podcast, but now I'm listening to the Gospel in Life podcast, which is just essentially the same thing. It's a bunch of his sermons, just his old sermons, and I don't think I've ever had a sermon by him where I wasn't just like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Like, this is true.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like, I just can't believe how true this is. Like, this is wild.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, that's what I really liked about that Collide song, right? Because we talk about this a lot, that like the truth of Jesus can't be brought without the love of Jesus, right? And doing either one of those without them together
Yeah.
is not how Jesus did it.
Yeah.
Right? Like he did not love without saying true things, and he never
Yes.
said true things without loving.
Yes.
And so like that Collide song is almost perfect because it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're like, this is so true. And like what is true is that like I am so deeply known and loved, and
Yeah.
like honestly deeply known and loved.
You know what's
Yeah.
awesome is that the word collide actually, I was going to say this, like gives you the image of two things barreling
Yes.
fast at each other
Right.
that combine as they're not just like casually bump into each
right.
other.
Bump.
Strength of both
Yeah.
coming together. Like it's a great word for how we think about that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't take credit for it. You know, like it's one of those funny things as a songwriter now, believing that God is so instrumental in my songwriting. Because on one hand, I'm like, I give all credit to God for every single thing I do, but on the other side, I feel like that's kind of sounding like, I mean, this like I'm hyping this up a little bit, like this better be good, and it's like at the same time, it's true.
I appreciate
like
your honesty in that so
it's
much.
like,
Man, like,
yeah,
We
I-
have had so many people to come on the show that's like, really, everything I've done is because of Jesus, and all that I do, it's everything I've done. By the way, this song came from the Lord directly.
Right.
Really, it's like, this better be good.
It better be dang good.
And then we
Yeah.
have
This
to
better
listen
be
to
some
it and be
real
like,
psalm style writing.
It's,
Where
it's
like,
a funny mix where I'm like, I mean, like this is just, I mean, it really does feel like it came from God, but like, you know,
Yeah, God don't write no stinkers.
this
though.
better be a good, better be good.
Okay. All right. So Tim Keller.
Oh man,
Tim Keller for John.
all the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, right on. I
Yeah.
do like Tim Keller. Mike, did you have one?
I don't really have a podcast, but what made me finally step up to man was to be the man that I needed to be was a Tony Evans. You know, just kingdom man.
Yep.
You know, stepping up and being that man of the house, the foundation of my family. Finally eating dinner with them.
Yep.
You know, and stop watching that TV and stuff because my wife is so supportive of me. Where she's like, "Oh, you work so hard. You could watch TV. I'll do the dinner and stuff." And I could have been that guy that just took advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
But that was just listening to Tony Evans and say, "Hey, you need to be the example, be that, and
That's
step
great.
up. Go wash those dishes. Go do, you know, what needs to be done for. Look who's watching you.
Yeah.
the kids,
Yeah, right.
The future. You know, So that's the one I always recommend.
Yeah.
That's right on.
And again, I think it hits on the. I think for fellas that like there's just something that says, look, I'm calling you to bed, and I think we feel this, right? Like you kind of know it when you're sitting down not doing anything, but like there's just something that God stirs inside you.
This is the best I am.
well, like
my wife said I could play video games.
I got at least 13 more minutes.
I'll be honest, Mike. Your explanation that goes, my wife goes, yeah, you should go out and watch TV. I was like, where do you get? What kind of class do you send the wives through? That's never happened to me.
Well, I also got another good one. My wife says I'm 99.9% of the time I'm right.
Wow.
Seriously, if it's a correspondence course or whatever, I mean, I'll pay.
Maybe it's like a something in the air. We can just drive by your place, maybe.
Hey man, that's,
some up.
Does she
that's
have a
the truth.
podcast?
my wife and I got married, and like I didn't really play any video games, but like her brother gifted me a PS4 just
Yeah,
to be a nice guy. And my wife was like, "You should play more video games." And I went, "Who are you? What are you talking about?" I was like, "That's not how this goes. What do you mean?" And she goes, "No, honey, you worked hard today." And I'm like, I did nothing today. What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know what kind of honeymoon phase we're still in, but that is absolutely not the truth. She goes, "You're just so stressed out from everything you do. Thank you. Play video games." And I'm like, Lord, is this a test?
You're stressed out. Go outside. You're not going to be all stressed out.
Exactly.
in here.
Yeah, you don't get to be stressed out in here. Go build something. My
You're
wife
ruining
goes,
the vibe with me.
I love Skyrim, and I can't wait to see you play with your characters. And I'm like, this is the reason God loves me. Is it's like he shows off this way, and he's like, here, I'm going to give you a wife that loves that you play video games.
I don't think they were growing ladies like this in the early 2000s, Mike.
I ain't speaking to this. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, you guys got to be careful.
No, I was just asking you in general. It's not my experience. Dan.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like everybody we go back to those pivotal times in our lives.
Yep.
And God tends to speak through what maybe everybody else thinks is mundane, whatever, but it hits us. And,
Yep.
Like for me, if I go back to 18-year-old Dan, the internet didn't exist yet, and podcasts weren't a thing. What are you laughing at?
I got a wager on what you're going to say. With the thing.
It was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
No,
No. you know what I'm going to say? Because I've said it before. I mean, like I had really no father figure in my life, and I thought I was 18 years old. I needed to figure out how to be a dad and a husband. I had no clue, and so focus on the family. Is that what you're going to say? Yep. That was my thing. And that every single day it was a different topic, different thing. But it was like stuff I'd never heard in my life. You know, it's like this is crazy. And I had a girlfriend, but it wasn't. You know, it was more looking to the future of what my wife would be. And then after that, Chuck Swindoll would come on. I didn't know who Chuck Swindoll was, so I'd listen to him just because it was the next thing. It was on the radio.
I like Chuck Swindoll.
Yeah, he was good stuff. It was solid stuff.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was going into studying ministry, so I'd like kind of listen to it in a technical way, like, well, how does he put this together? And then later on, I would like buy tapes from guys, right? So Bob Russell, Mike Bro. I mean, for years, I get their tapes in. I listen to the cassette tapes.
I had cassette tapes.
But here's the thing: like in recent years, like I've done all the podcast stuff too. Like I've done what's his name? I always forget his name. You were talking about Driscoll, yeah. Perry, Noble.
You always call him Driscoll, too.
Yeah,
every time.
Like a
Frisco burger.
And I loved it, and I really enjoyed it. But it seems like everybody in the last 15 years that I will listen to and really dial into, like, they blow up.
I know it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, and then okay, people are people. I get it. You know, they're human.
Right.
So I don't like hold anything against them. It's just like, it's not the same for me now as it was 40 years ago. Whatever. How old am I?
Right. Hey.
When I was 18.
Cassette tapes didn't bring the ego that the internet brought.
Oh, sometimes I think
There's some truth in that, though, right?
There's absolutely
Nobody
didn't see
retires
it.
before they like fall. Like everybody
goes back in the little. Hey, how many tapes did we sell today, Martha? I mean, you know, that was going on. I'm sure.
The fact that you said Martha is the name in that situation also says how long ago that was.
That was a long time ago.
Hey, my wife Martha's very upset about you.
Just play those video games, honey.
When we started Pathway Church, one of the first things I did is I bought a tape duplicator so I could measure the effectiveness of the messages.
You're on your way, Dan.
And every day I'd be like, "Hey guys, how many tapes did we sell? We got 30 on that one." I'm like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that happened when I was about 10. So yeah. I think I was one of the kids in that basement. Yeah.
But so I mean, there's still valuable stuff, and I gained stuff from Driscoll, Mark, and from Perry Noble, you know, and the guys that have kind of disappeared. There's nobody current. I like the Bible guy Mackey.
I do like Mackey.
I do like that. You know, there's stuff anymore. I've just not connected with a particular one. I'll put in a topic. And just find something. I'll listen to 2 or 3 people on that topic, and I like that more than anything.
Yeah,
probably because I'm not invested in I'm not like, hey,
because they keep letting you down.
Drinking, or you
don't deify them as a person.
Do you think you're a hero? I mean, I can just get the Bible content and kind of soak it in. Okay, I can pick some stuff out of that.
Yeah.
So I've kind of evolved in that world. So
yeah. I would, if there's a theme in that, I think there's is part of where we talked about not putting God in a box or the Spirit in the box. I think we have to be cautious not to put the Bible in a box. Like the belief that like this is our finite human wisdom has got this thing figured out. That's why like listening to guys like Tim Mackey and others that are able to look at Scripture and start again. What seems it's deeper, it's wider, it's higher.
Yep.
And I think it's a constant humility on. Even as we think about interacting with other Christians on how we've interpreted the Bible or things like that, it's just being humble in that and allowing Scripture to be bigger than me. And I think that's handy.
I was thinking kind of about that today when I was thinking about Tim Keller's sermons and everything, and I was just thinking about like, man, I can't like he preaches with such a confidence that he understands like what like where Jesus is coming from and what he's teaching in something like some particular thing and like he just has these like wonderful insights that like I'm like, man, how did you find like get this such a like how do you have such a handle on these things at all?
Yep.
But I think too he probably, if you talk to him, he probably he probably would say that he was given an insight by God through his study and reading of Scripture, and 2 that his diving deeper into it only makes it more overwhelming to him. Like that, just how he's only scratched the surface.
Man, yeah, actually, I was listening to something recently with on N.T. Wright on his podcast, and like that was the interesting thing. That guy still does. I mean, he's produced 1 billion books.
I didn't know he did a podcast.
There's an Ask N.T. Wright podcast, which is is interesting because like he's done like super scholarly stuff and then like accessible things. But it's like a lot of the questions to him are like pastoral. Like he was the Bishop of Durham. Like he was a pastor. He did like these pastor things. Anyway, so like listening to him answer kind of day-to-day questions are interesting from a guy that like has like gone deep on everything
Right.
in some form or another. But like listen to him talk about like his daily reading. That guy's like getting up in the morning at 6:30 and reading the Greek New Testament for like half an hour. And so like this is a guy, so a guy who you would look and go, he knows a billion things more than I do, still opens the morning searching the scriptures for God to speak to him. You know what I'm saying? And so like it's kind of
Right.
thought that same thing, like when you're giving the example of Tim Keller, is like even those guys would go, "Oh, I've not even scratched the surface here."
And then and without getting like too deep into like potentially I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like high conflict material. Like I was at a spot about a year and a half ago. I started getting into a place where I was struggling with some like realization of the disagreement that exists over interpretations of things. And N.T. Wright and Tim Keller were actually like two folks who they disagree on some things that where I was like, where how can I, where am I? What am I going to do? Like, how am I ever going to come to any, like, who am I? Like these guys, this is their full-time living for the last 40 years and they can't agree on on some pretty important stuff. It's like, it was like one of those, man, this is hard.
Yes.
This is going to be tough.
Yep. And actually, you know what? One of the things, like listening to and reading a wide smattering of teaching and folks and stuff, like what I've been becoming more and more comfortable with over the years was like God is still God here. Like, so if you think of the things that the guys like Tim Keller and N.T. Wright are arguing over, they're both arguing for God's rulership, God's sovereignty, God's ability to control situations. There's variations on levels of things that humans are comfortable with, but like none of them misplace my understanding of how God looks at the world and a right understanding of who He is. Like now we're talking about things that like I think when I see Jesus, He'll explain it to me and I'll go, oh, okay, I get it.
It's at least evidence that like some of the disagreements that exist in the church, at least my opinion, is like, and I imagine you guys would share it, is that like if folks who are so diligent and like have so much time and expertise can't agree on some things, like it's reason to give pause and go like, this is hard.
Yeah,
like this is not cut and dry. Like it's not as cut and dry as a lot of folks want it to be.
Yes,
right. And even if there is, if and when there are, like someone's right and someone's wrong, it's just like don't have arrogance to say like, how could you possibly think this?
Right.
Because look at like how easy it is for folks to disagree who are really like who 10 times more time to spend on this than I do, or most of us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Like at the end, if we look and go, as humans, we're having a hard time feeling like we fully understand and know an incredible creator God. Well, doesn't that sound right?
Yeah, exactly.
That feels like it sounds right.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did everybody go?
Everybody went but you.
Okay, I'm up. So I would say mine, if I had to, probably three spans in life. I think the first one was Mark Driscoll, and I think the reason for that primarily was he was the first guy that I'd heard speak. Like everybody took the Bible seriously, but like he kind of took it a step further and goes, no, like this changes everything, and not just changes everything from a like, you can go to heaven type of thing, but like this changes what you do day to day. And like I think I had not heard someone talk about it with such force that was the truth, and that like, no, really, don't walk out of here. This changes everything. And so that hit pretty hard, and it took the Bible seriously. Like he spoke about it in such a way, and he was going like I'd heard a lot of topical stuff up to that point, but like watching him like go through books of the Bible like not exactly line by line, but at least section by section, was like, oh, I mean, he's spending a lot of time focusing on this thing. And so like it brought the Bible for a sense of something deeper that I think I had not latched onto up to that point. And then there was a transition, and Dan's to thank for this, is that is introduced me to a guy named Shane Wood, and he teaches at Ozark Christian College, and he's got his classes, his lectures are online. I didn't go to Bible school, right? And so like I can read commentaries and I can study the word, but like there wasn't any formal training in there. And so listening to somebody like kind of lecture on the Bible, like I was just tapped in, because like again, there was a space to go, hey, you think that's a wild thing that the Bible said? You should. That was a wild thing. Why does the Bible say that? Why are we talking about this? How is this interacting with other things that God's word is telling us? How are people of the time talking about this? Like just the thought that like there was some really sharp people who were like, whatever things that I might be worried about, there are really smart, sharp people who've been digging into this thing, mining God's word for depth, that I wasn't missing, like God was depriving me of it, but it was like a continual unveiling of more and more. You're like, it's like going into a house that you thought had 10 rooms, and the realtor, and you get to the end and they're like, okay, that was all 10, and they goes, no, but there's another one. And then every time you get in there, they go, no, wait, there's another one. And so like it was just it just opened so much to think about the reliability of Scripture, the ability to ask questions of it and go, I don't know. That's interesting. But like in such a serious way that goes, it doesn't risk my faith to ask the questions off of inspired human writers in socio-cultural context, communicating what it's like to interact with a living God. Like that's my experience. And so that opened up for me. And he was he's a winsome, like he's a really good teacher. And there was something about taking, again, same thing but on a different level. It wasn't forceful. He's actually a pretty kind of softer spoken fella, but he's the guy who would tell a story that like some guy wants to steal your car and he's like, well, let him have it, like type of thing. And it just changed to go like, do you take this serious, or these are just things you put on the back of your bumper sticker of your car or put on the side of your thing? Like, give it away then.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was powerful to me. And I think, and then the Bible Project kind of extended that. So like continually watching people go, I mean, dive in deeper, man. Like God is in here, and he's got so much to say, and allowing even the biblical writers to let Scripture breathe deeper than whatever almost petty cultural things that we're fighting over for the Bible. And like some of it is worth fighting over, most certainly. Yeah. But like just letting Scripture be deeper than whatever thing us humans feel like we've conquered. And I think that was the progression of stuff. Yeah. All right, hey, you're listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us today. But time for you prepped an advice.
I don't know, man.
What do you think?
You want to try to fire through it real quick?
Let's get through the Druid advice, and then John's going to take us out.
Okay, ready?
Did you got a preparation to speak about Druidism?
As far as I understand, Druidism is like is a belief in the spiritualism of nature and natural objects.
I hate that.
So to understand that nature has spirits within them that have power that can be called upon, with an understanding and respect alongside it.
So, but Jesus says the rocks would cry out. Is your thought? Are you accusing Jesus of being a druid?
I am not. I would say that a druid would probably create a totem of like a tree, and recognize that tree totem may have had a spirit or a piece of a said spirit within it that has power to grant them the ability to do things metaphysically in their own life.
I want to talk to rocks. Is this possible?
This is the exact thing we don't have time for.
Booba.
The exact thing.
Booba. Can I speak with rocks?
Dear Life from the Path.
In Diablo 2, you can... No.
Okay, go ahead.
Dear Life from the Path. My husband is a druid, and I'm worried that he wants to sacrifice me at Stonehenge.
Booba didn't say anything about that.
I didn't get to that point yet. Mike cut me off.
I am 41, and my husband is 43. We've been married for 23 years, and every solstice and equinox, he gets out a big bronze knife and tries to persuade me to come to Stonehenge with him so he can sacrifice me to ensure a good harvest next year.
You don't think this... Okay.
I always make an excuse why I can't go with him, like I've got a headache or my mom's got a bad leg, but my excuses are wearing thin.
That's wild.
He says that lots of his druid friends have sacrificed their wives, and I'm just being stubborn.
Honey, I can't go to Stonehenge. My leg hurts.
I don't want to get sacrificed, but I'm afraid I'll lose him if I don't give him what he wants. Please help me. I am at my wit's end, and I don't know what to do.
You should lose him.
Call the police.
Mike, I'm going to ask. This gives away the man behind the curtain. But, like, is this from the same source of which we normally harvest?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, I'm suspicious as to whether or not this is true.
Yeah.
what do you mean? From a druidic
just-
perspective, I'm fairly certain Stonehenge is more ley lines in Wicca than Druidism.
It's just a
I don't
Babylon
know.
Bee.
Are you going to help this woman or ain't you?
Okay, I would say, yeah, I mean, it's time to get out, you know?
Yeah, get way out. Way out. Get way,
Every equinox and solstice is a lot.
get way out.
That's a lot of
As
frequency.
far out as you can get.
Plan your vacations on those times.
Yeah. Don't look for ley lines.
Yeah.
understand.
Change your name. Change your identity.
Yeah. It's okay let's go to kick up bait on this one. Go ahead.
I mean, he seems safe the other times of the year. So just stay away from. He only pulls out the knife.
Totally sane until the equinoxes.
True.
It sounded like her finishing qualm was that if she doesn't give in, that she'll lose him.
Yes.
But if she does give
She'll
in,
die.
she still loses him.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
She's in a lose-lose. Well, from her perspective.
I don't believe that your marriage has been like developed and the covenant is with God that we call God, and so I think in this situation you could leave.
Get out.
You do not have a covenant with the God of Abraham.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to walk away and find someone that you can have that kind of covenant with that also won't attempt to sacrifice you twice a year.
I might encourage you to not date for a while.
Yeah. Maybe you should take in that maybe you're not the best at picking folks.
Yeah.
Is he a farmer?
It
What's
does-
he need a good crop for?
No, he might be a farmer.
I recommend you delete your profile from druidsonly.com.
Okay.
And get away from that as quickly as
Yeah,
possible.
it's okay to bail, yeah.
All right, let's see. Secular says.
Yeah.
Secular says, it sounds to me that you have been leading your druid husband up the garden path a bit. By making excuses every solstice and equinox why you can't come to Stonehenge to have your throat slit or be eviscerated, you may have given him the impression that you would be happy for him to sacrifice you to oppose the gods when it's convenient. You need to this is not the same. I don't know where this came from. You need to have a heart-to-heart with your man and tell him that you love him, but that you do not want to be sacrificed in any circumstances.
I feel like a heart-to-heart with your man in that situation might be a double sacrifice, so be careful.
Wait a minute. It may be that he finds himself another woman to sacrifice on his pagan altar, but I'm afraid that's a chance you will have to take.
There's also a chance that you're not going to make you can't make it like into Stonehenge. Just a heads up. I don't think you can like go in there with a bronze knife and then they'll just let you kill somebody.
Well, I don't think I could take rando advices from people anymore.
That was, oh boy. I feel like Jesus fixes this and you should meet him.
Yeah.
My hope is that this is a creative writing, and they ought to, if that is the case, totally publish. But
Yeah.
if that is not, and this is true, please, for the sake of
we
your
need
life,
to, we
get
need to
out
make
of there.
some immediate changes
Yeah.
in the way that we're looking at things.
Delete that Druids Only profile.
Yeah, definitely.
Druids only.
Okay, hey, you've been listening to Life from the Path. Maybe you have a worldly problem, and you say, these late-night internet fellas can be of assistance to me.
No, we can't.
And I want to wait a couple hours into a show to hear it. We're the guys for you. You can get a hold of the Life from the Path complaint line, sponsored by local realtor and celebrity Bob Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that guy.
That's 515-517-0085. 515-517-0085. Call or text. Also, if you want to use that complaint line, I'll be honest, complaint line is the most likely reason that you're using it, but maybe you thought the show was great. You want to pass on kudos to John. You want to encourage him to get out, and say you need to separate from this relationship with these fellas. I'll pass it on.
It's also fair.
There's no shame here. I'll say, John, we heard from 3 people and they said it's time to bail from Life from the Path. I don't have a problem with that. So call or text. We'd love to be able to hear from you on your feedback on the show.
And with that complaint line, you can also hit us up on LFTP Show on Instagram. That's Life from the Path Show on Instagram. You can send us a DM. We do monitor that. I don't think Mike monitors it, though, so don't worry about him responding to you.
I don't know it exists.
Yeah, so hit us up on LFTP Show on Instagram, where we'll be following John now too. So you can link up on socials
Back
for
at
that
you.
as well. We try and follow some of the people that have been on the show. So if you're looking for people that you've heard of before and are wanting to jump on and meet them as well through that, again, that's LFTP Show.
Okay. Hey, let's finish the show on a high note. John's got one more song for us. John, you want to tell us about it?
High note? Was that a pun?
Oh no. Well, I don't
no
know.
pun intended?
I hope I didn't box you.
It's a low note, actually. So a little setup of the song is it's called "We'll Meet Again," which is perfect for the end of a show because I hope that I will meet all of you again, God willing, and this life or the next. That's kind of what this song is about. It's become my anthem for believing in hopefully happy reunions with all my loved ones, this life or the next, this life and the next. It's the only song that I have released, so you can listen to it on all the different things out there, Spotify and Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon, a million other ones that I don't know the name of. There's a music video on YouTube. It was a lot of fun doing this. Like I said, it was a long time coming. First single, big deal for me. Released it last November with a studio band, a bunch of friends of mine, and very talented musicians. And I wrote this song. So this was the song that I wrote. I start to finish it. It was the last song that I finished before I started home. Mm-hmm. So I was still in the completely non-believing world when I wrote this. But I feel like there's a lot of evidence in this song of God moving in my life and preparing me for the faith that I would have. Yep. I can feel and remember in it a tension about even faith in general. Like there's a lyric in it where it says, I believe we'll meet again. And I originally wrote it as I feel we will meet again because I didn't want to say believe. I felt like it was too far. And so anyway, the song was inspired by my first memory of my grandmother. And she's alive and well today. We're very close. Her name's Sandra. And she's just been one of the most influential people in my life, one of the most loving figures in my life. And my first memory of her, I'm thinking I was probably first grade or so, kindergarten, first grade. And I just remember being in her living room and asking in all seriousness, Grandma, if you ever pass away, will you write me letters from heaven? I was dead serious. Like there's not an ounce of kidding in me. Right. And so I was thinking, I just was reflecting on that memory when I started writing this song. And I was just really inspired by the childlike innocence of that question, to be like, remember that space of being a kid asking the dead serious question, would you write me letters from heaven? Like that was reality, like for me and a total possibility. Yeah. There was a part of me really craving that innocence again, and still is. So I think I was on a path trying to find more of that childlike innocence, which I feel like God is totally for and doing in all of us. And so, like I said, it's become my anthem for not only my relationship with my grandmother and how much I love her and hope that we'll meet again this life or the next in our ongoing relationship, but in so many other relationships with all kinds of different reasons why we're parted for now, hoping that we'll meet again. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, all right. You've been listening to Live from the Path. Make sure you find John Paul Burtch on the various social media platforms, including TikTok. You can find him out there.
TikTok star.
That's what I'm saying. He's breaking out. And so big thanks to John. Make sure you follow him on the socials so you can see where he's going to be. You go out, see him in person. Say, hey, I saw you on Live from the Path. And, you also be kept up to date when he's got some new music to be able to go out and listen to, buy. Wait, do you have any merchandise, like things with your face on it? I
do have 2 shirts left, a medium and an extra small, and then I've got more that I'll be ordering hopefully soon.
I'll take the extra small.
Okay. I thought you meant 2 shirt designs, but you mean literally
I
two
have
shirts?
Literally 2 shirts left. One's an extra small, one's a medium.
Okay.
I bring them with to my shows. Okay. And I have more shirts coming.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Hey man, so it's Christmas is coming around the bend. Be prepared for your merchandise. All right. Thanks so much, John, for coming on. We'll close out the show with We'll Meet Again with John Paul Burtch on Live from the Path.
When you get where you're going, would you let me know? Could you write me a letter wherever you go? Would you write it all down to show me around? Let's stay in touch. Could you send me a note? Just send it afloat. I love you so much. So much. So much. When you get where you're going, would you share the view? Could you send me an angel, show me what to do? Would you come in disguise, but don't hide your eyes? Let's stay in touch. Could you send me your smile every once in a while? I love you so much. So much. So much. And although we may be far away, you're still with me every single day. And although I don't know how or when, I believe that we will meet again. When you get up to heaven, would you let me know? Could you write me a letter wherever you go? Would you write it all down to show me around? Let's stay in touch. Could you send me a note? Just send it afloat. I love you so much. So much. So much. And although we may be far away, you're still with me every single day. And although I don't know how or when, I believe that we will meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, you've been listening live from the path. A big thanks to John for coming in the studio tonight. Boy, I mean, just cranking out the hits, man. That was fantastic. Open invitation, John. You're always welcome back on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. It was such a good time. Really had a great time.
Very, very cool. Well, so, hey, I want to thank you guys for listening. Again, feedback on the show. Use that Live from the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085. Go check out the past episode, Gone Gone Boov, if you want to hear the backstory on Dave Herrick following Boov around in the old Quickie Mart. And, boy, just thanks for hanging out with us tonight. If just one other thing. If you've got something that you want to share, like favorite podcasts or sermons or something, I'd love to hear them. It'd be great. So maybe we'll go check them out, too. Maybe they can help our lives. Anyway, we hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.